Apple was never just another technology company. It was built on a foundation of innovation, a belief that technology should serve humanity, that design and function should be inseparable, and that great products come from an obsessive attention to detail. In its early days, Apple was fearless, willing to take risks, willing to challenge the status quo, and willing to push the limits of what people thought was possible. The Macintosh wasn't just another computer, it was a revolution. It redefined how people interacted with technology. It made computing personal. It made it intuitive. It made it accessible to everyone. But somewhere along the way, Apple lost sight of what made it great. As companies grow, they often become more concerned with process than with product. They focus on market share instead of innovation. They start following trends instead of creating them. And when that happens, something essential is lost. The passion, the clarity of vision, the drive to create something insanely great, it all starts to fade. Apple, a company once known for its boldness, had started making compromises. It had started releasing products that felt uninspired, products that didn't carry that unmistakable Apple magic. It had started chasing what competitors were doing rather than defining its own path. That's not how great companies operate. Great companies don't let the fear of failure dictate their decisions. They don't lose sight of their core values. They don't try to be everything to everyone. They focus on what they do best, and they do it better than anyone else. Apple had forgotten that. It had started expanding its product line with devices that lacked a clear purpose. It had started prioritizing short-term profits over long-term vision. It had started making decisions based on spreadsheets rather than gut instinct. And when that happens, you don't just lose market share. You lose your identity. You lose what makes people believe in you. You lose the very thing that made you special. But the good news is identity can be reclaimed. Vision can be restored. It starts with remembering why you began in the first place. It starts with stripping away everything that doesn't matter and focusing on what is. It starts with believing in something again. Because at its core, Apple was never about selling computers. It was about making tools for creative minds. It was about empowering people to think differently. It was about making products so beautifully designed, so seamlessly intuitive, that they became extensions of the people who used them. That's what Apple was. That's what Apple can be again. But it requires discipline. It requires commitment. It requires an unshakable belief that the best is yet to come. Simplicity isn't just about minimalism. It's about clarity. It's about understanding what truly matters and eliminating everything that doesn't. When a company tries to do too much, it loses focus, it spreads itself thin. It confuses customers. It dilutes its own identity. Apple was built on the idea that technology should be simple, intuitive, and beautifully designed. Every product should feel effortless to use. Every interaction should feel natural. That's what set Apple apart in the beginning. The Macintosh wasn't just another computer. It was a statement that technology should serve people, not the other way around. The iPod wasn't the first digital music player, but it was the first one that made sense. The iPhone wasn't just a phone. It was a complete rethinking of how people interact with the world through technology. All of these products had one thing in common. They were simple. Not in a way that made them basic, but in a way that made them powerful. Simplicity is hard. It requires discipline. It requires saying no to 1,000 good ideas so you can focus on one great one. It requires cutting through complexity to find the essence of what really matters. When companies grow, they often lose sight of this. They add more features, more options, more layers of complexity, thinking that more equals better. But more is not better. Better is better. True innovation doesn't come from adding, it comes from refining. It comes from stripping away the unnecessary and perfecting what remains. That's what Apple must do. Not chase trends, not add features for the sake of adding features, but focus on making products that are so intuitive, so seamless, that they disappear into the background of people's lives. That's what Apple has always done at its best. Not build technology for technology's sake, but build tools that amplify human potential, that make people more creative, more productive, more connected. Focus is the key to this. A company can only do a few things well. The moment it tries to be everything to everyone, it loses its ability to create things that truly stand out. Apple doesn't need 100 different products. It needs a handful of great ones. That means making hard choices. It means killing off products that don't fit the vision, even if they're profitable. It means streamlining the lineup so that customers aren't confused about what to buy. It means doubling down on the things that make Apple unique, the marriage of hardware and software, the obsessive attention to detail, the relentless pursuit of perfection. When a company is focused, every product feels like it belongs. Every decision feels intentional. Every experience feels cohesive. That's what builds trust. That's what creates loyalty. People don't fall in love with products that try to do everything. They fall in love with products that do a few things extraordinarily well. The companies that change the world are the ones that have the courage to ignore distractions and focus on what really matters. Apple was built on that philosophy. Apple succeeded because it never lost sight of the idea that the best technology is the technology you don't even notice because it just works. That's what Apple must return to. That's what will make it great again. Innovation isn't about looking at what everyone else is doing and trying to do it better. It's about doing something completely different. The companies that truly change the world are the ones that refuse to follow trends. They don't wait for permission. They don't ask what's possible. They define what's possible. Apple was never about chasing competitors. It was about leading. It was about thinking differently. It was about creating products so revolutionary that they didn't just improve industries, they redefined them. The Macintosh didn't follow the blueprint of existing computers. It introduced the graphical user interface when the world was still using command lines. The iPod didn't just play music, it put 1,000 songs in your pocket when other companies were still figuring out how to make digital music accessible. The iPhone didn't just combine a phone and an iPod, it completely reimagined how people interact with technology. That's what true innovation looks like. It's not about small improvements, it's about giant leaps. The danger of success is that companies become comfortable. They stop taking risks. They start making decisions based on what the market expects instead of what the future demands. They look at their competitors instead of looking ahead. But the companies that make history are the ones that don't play it safe. They are the ones that bet on bold ideas before the world is ready for them. They are the ones that trust their instincts even when the data says otherwise. When Apple started, there was no data that said people wanted a personal computer. When Apple launched the iPhone, there were experts who thought it would fail. The greatest innovations are often the ones that people don't see coming. That's why companies can't afford to follow. By the time they catch up, the next revolution has already begun. To truly innovate, a company has to be willing to ignore the noise. It has to stop looking at what everyone else is doing and start looking at what no one else is doing. It has to focus not just on making things better, but on making things different. That's the Apple way. That's what made Apple the most influential technology company in the world. Not incremental updates, but breakthroughs. Not focus groups, but vision. The best products don't come from listening to what customers think they want. They come from anticipating what they'll need before they even realize it themselves. People didn't ask for an iPhone. They didn't ask for an iPad. But once they had them, they couldn't imagine life without them. That's the kind of impact that only comes from leading, not following. This requires a willingness to take risks, a willingness to fail, a willingness to look foolish before you look brilliant. Most companies aren't willing to do that. They are too afraid of making mistakes, too afraid of being wrong. But the only real mistake is playing it safe. The only real failure is failing to try. Apple has always been at its best when it was bold, when it refused to compromise, when it created products not because they were expected, but because they were necessary. That's how it will lead again. That's how it will shape the future. Because the world doesn't need another company that follows trends. It needs a company that creates them. Technology alone is not enough. The most powerful products are not just machines, they are tools that empower people to create, to express, to think beyond limitations. Apple was never about just making computers or phones. It was about giving people the ability to do things they never imagined possible. A computer isn't just a box of circuits, it's a tool for artists, musicians, writers, and dreamers. A phone isn't just a device for calls, it's a portal to knowledge, a canvas for ideas, a bridge between people. That's what makes Apple different. It doesn't just build technology. It builds experiences. It builds emotions. It builds a connection between people and the tools they use every day. Too many companies focus on specs, on features, on numbers that look good on a marketing sheet but don't mean anything to the people who use them. That's not how Apple thinks. Apple understands that the best technology disappears into the background, allowing people to focus on what really matters. It's not about having the fastest processor or the most megapixels. It's about how a product makes you feel when you use it. It's about how seamlessly it integrates into your life. It's about removing friction so that creativity can flow effortlessly. The Mac was never about just being a computer. It was about making technology so intuitive that people could use it without thinking. The iPhone was never about just being a phone. It was about putting the world in your pocket and making it feel natural. The iPad was never about being just a tablet. It was about creating a new way to interact with content that felt as simple as holding a piece of paper. When passion and purpose drive innovation, products become more than just tools. They become part of people's lives. They inspire. They enable. They unlock potential. That's what Apple must always remember. It's not about chasing the next trend or adding features just to keep up with competitors. It's about asking a simple question: how does this improve someone's life? How does this make them more creative, more productive, more connected? Every decision, every design choice, every product should be guided by that principle. The companies that succeed in the long run are the ones that stay true to their purpose. They don't just make things, they make things that matter. They don't just sell products. They sell experiences. They don't just follow the market. They define it. That's why details matter. That's why design matters. That's why the experience matters. Because when you care about the little things, people notice. When you obsess over getting something just right, it shows. That's what creates loyalty. That's what makes people not just buy a product, but love it. Apple has always had the ability to create that connection with its users, not because of its technology, but because of its understanding that technology is only a means to an end. The real goal is to empower people, to give them tools that inspire them to create, to remove barriers so that their ideas can take flight. When a company operates from that mindset, it doesn't just build products, it builds movements. It shapes industries. Failure is not the opposite of success, it is a necessary step toward it. Every great innovation, every breakthrough, every industry-defining product has come from people who are willing to take risks, willing to push boundaries, and willing to fail. The companies that succeed in the long run are not the ones that avoid failure, but the ones that embrace it, learn from it, and use it as fuel to drive forward. Apple was built on that philosophy. It was never afraid to challenge conventions, to introduce ideas that seemed radical, to take leaps that others hesitated to take. Not everything worked. There were products that didn't resonate, ideas that didn't take off, decisions that didn't go as planned. But every failure carried a lesson, every setback sharpened the vision. Every misstep was a step towards something greater. The danger for any company is becoming afraid to take those risks. Success can make companies cautious. It can make them focus on protecting what they have instead of chasing what's possible. But playing it safe is the fastest way to become irrelevant. Innovation doesn't come from staying in comfort zones. It comes from pushing past them. It comes from looking at what's possible today and daring to imagine what could be possible tomorrow. Apple's greatest success is the Macintosh, the iPod, the iPhone didn't come from following a predictable path. They came from seeing where the world was headed before the world saw it. They came from being willing to experiment, to iterate, to fail fast and learn faster. Some of the best ideas in history started as failures. The light bulb wasn't invented on the first try. Airplanes didn't fly perfectly the first time. The most important thing isn't avoiding failure, it's making sure that when you fail forward. You take the lessons, you refine the vision, and you keep moving. That's what separates companies that last from companies that fade away. It's easy to be great once. The challenge is staying great. That requires resilience. It requires the ability to look at failures not as defeats, but as opportunities to improve, to evolve, to build something even better. The real test of a company isn't how it performs when things are going well, but how it responds when things don't go as planned. That's when true leadership is defined. That's when a company either retreats in fear or moves forward with conviction. Apple has always been at its best when it refused to let failure dictate its future. It has always thrived when it bet on bold ideas, even when others doubted them. That spirit, the willingness to embrace risk, to push forward despite setbacks, to chase innovation, no matter the obstacles, is what will keep Apple ahead. The world doesn't need more companies that play it safe. It needs companies that are willing to take chances, to lead instead of follow, to innovate with courage. Because the future isn't built by those who fear failure. It's built by those who refuse to let it stop them. This moment is not about looking back. It's about looking forward. The past has given lessons, victories, and challenges, but what matters now is what comes next. A great company isn't defined by what it has done. It's defined by what it will do. The best products, the most revolutionary ideas, the biggest leaps forward, they don't exist yet. They are waiting to be built. They are waiting for people bold enough to create them. Apple has always been a company that moves forward, that reinvents itself, that refuses to stand still. That's why this moment is not just a return. It is a new beginning. The world has changed. Technology is advancing faster than ever. Expectations are higher than ever. People don't just want great products, they expect them. Innovation isn't optional, it's the cost of staying relevant. That's the challenge. That's the opportunity. Apple must rise to it. It must take everything that made it great, the passion, the precision, the focus, and apply it to the future. It must build products that not only meet expectations but shatter them. It must create experiences that feel inevitable the moment people use them. It must lead the next wave of innovation, not by following trends but by making them. That is the responsibility of a company that has changed the world before. That is the responsibility of a company that will do it again. Great companies don't just chase the next quarter, they build for the next decade. They make decisions not based on what is easy, but on what is right. They don't cut corners. They don't take shortcuts. They don't settle for good enough. They demand excellence in every detail, in every design, in every design. Apple's next chapter will be written by people who refuse to accept anything less than extraordinary. People who obsess over making things simpler, more powerful, more meaningful. People who believe that technology, when done right, can inspire. This is a call to action. To the engineers, the designers, the thinkers, the dreamers, this is the moment to create, to take risks, to push boundaries, to think beyond limitations. The next breakthrough won't come from playing it safe. It will come from bold ideas, from fearless execution, from an unwavering commitment to building the future. That's the DNA of Apple. That's what made it legendary. That's what will make it unstoppable again. The goal isn't just to make products, it's to create tools that empower people, that enrich their lives, that redefine industries. That's the mission. That's the purpose. Every great company reaches a point where it must decide whether to hold on to the past or embrace the future. This is that moment. This is the time to step forward with confidence, with clarity, with the belief that the best is still ahead. Because it is. The greatest products haven't been built yet. The most exciting innovations haven't been imagined yet. The biggest impact hasn't been made yet. The journey starts now. The future starts now.